Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video of Ielts preparation. I hope you all are doing well. This is Faizanul from Lekhapora Online, and I'm here to help you with your Ielts preparation. Today, I'm gonna talk about Ielts speaking test part 2. Okay, so you already know that the IELTS speaking test has three parts. The first part is the interview part, the second part is the cue card part, and the last part is the discussion part. If you are still confused about the format of this test, you can watch my video on IELTS test format so that you can get a clear picture of the whole test. So in today's video, I'm gonna discuss in more detail about IELTS speaking test part 2 and how to succeed and get a good band score in IELTS speaking test. Firstly, let's review that what actually happens in the part 2 of the IELTS speaking test. The examiner will give you a topic and there will be 3 questions followed by that topic, and lastly one question about your opinion on the topic. You will get just a 1 minute to prepare about the topic, and then the examiner will ask you to speak, and you will get only 1 to 2 minutes to speak on the topic. You will get 1 minute to prepare for the speech, and after 1 minute the examiner will ask you to speak, and you need to talk for between 1 to 2 minutes. After you finish, the examiner will ask you 1 to 2 simple questions about what you have said. Okay, so you have to speak on a particular topic given by the examiner in your IELTS speaking test part 2. But you may ask why it is called the cue card part. Basically, it is about speaking on a particular topic given by the examiner, but the topic is written on a piece of paper or on a simple card. That's why we call it a cue card part. You'll be asked 3 questions on that cue card with 3 bullet point lists on the topic and 1 long questions about your opinion on the topic. Okay, let's look at a sample question from IELTS speaking test part 2. Describe a trip you have taken recently. You should say where you went, who went with you, and why you went there, and explain what you enjoyed most about this trip. Okay, now before moving into the strategies, let me talk about the importance of the IELTS speaking test part 2. Lots of people consider this as the most challenging part of the IELTS speaking test. As it is not a dialogue or not a conversation, here you need to talk spontaneously for 1 to 2 minutes. So that's why many of us find it so difficult talking for 1 to 2 minutes. Moreover, many candidates make mistakes in this part. Also, they lose their confidence here and they start to mumbling and they start making grammatical mistakes in this part. So, I want to share some strategies, some tips, and some amazing templates that will help you score your desired band score in IELTS speaking test. But before I start sharing the techniques, one thing you need to know is why the part 2 is so important. Well, basically, it's the first time the examiner really sits back and really listens to you. They don't have to think about the next questions. They are gonna be listening about your pronunciation, and they actually gonna listen you're fluent in English. They just relax and they are gonna be listening whether you can tell a story in English. They are gonna be listening to your pronunciation, and they are gonna actually listen how fluent you are. They will also notice if you make many mistakes or hesitate to speak in longer sentences. If you make mistakes in vocabulary or in grammar, you are gonna be in real trouble. Usually in this part 2, the examiner is going to decide your band score. Are you getting a 5 or 6 or 7? They're going to really decide on your part 2 of your speaking test. So that is why this part is considered as the most important part of your IELTS speaking test. Okay, then the part 3 is for to validate and confirm that you are getting you are actually getting the band score they have decided on your part 2. It is also possible that you jump up to a higher band score in your part 3, but that is very unusual. I have talked with a few IELTS speaking test examiners and they all have confirmed me that and said me that they decide your band score at the end of your part 2, and in some rare cases which is very unusual, that they change their minds in the part 3. So this part is really important. Okay, so now let's move into the strategies. Strategy number 1. Introduce the main idea to your talk using keywords from the first sentence of the topic. Okay, now what does it mean? It means that you can start speaking on the topic with the help of keywords. It is because introducing the main idea will help you to organize your thoughts and allow the instructor to follow your ideas. For example, let's look back at the question I have shared with you earlier. Okay, so here you can see the question is, describe a trip you have taken recently. You should say where you went, who went with you, why you went there, and explain what you enjoyed most about this trip. Here you can start talking like this. I recently took a trip to my father's hometown, Chittagong. Okay, notice here I have used two keywords from the question, and that is trip and recently. Again, if we look at some other examples, like if the question is describe a book you enjoyed reading, you can start with a book I enjoyed reading was Oliver Twist. See? Okay, here this is not the most apparent start, but I prefer this introduction because it helps me to organize my thoughts and helps me to have a good decent start by just giving the answer in a one-liner, and then I might start describing a little bit on the topic, like here is the sample. I recently took a trip to my father's hometown, Chittagong, which is the second largest city in my country. It is located on the banks of the Kornofuli River and between the Chittagong Hill Tracts and the Bay of Bengal. The city plays a vital role in our country's economy. That's it. I just started speaking with the help of keywords. I then described a little bit using some complex and compound sentences. It creates a good impression if you start like this. Okay, so now let's move on to the strategy number 2, which is the most important one. So the strategy is pay your attention to the question words. Okay, so when you read the topic on the cue card, you will see the phrase you should say, followed by a list of 3 questions asking for factual information. You don't need to answer these questions in depth, but you need to give the type of information they ask for. Okay, one thing you should know is that the questions on the 3 bullet points actually asks you when, what, who, where, why, and how. These 6 WH questions. If you go through the previous IELTS speaking test questions, you will notice that the questions written on the 3 bullet points are actually from the 6 WH words. So the strategy is pay your attention to the question words. who, what, when, where, why, and how, and make some notes based on these words. If we look at the question again, under the phrase you should say, it asks where you went, who went with you, and why you went there. And explain what you have enjoyed most about this trip. Here you can see 3 WH questions or 3 WH words: where, who, and why. So when you are preparing for 1 minute, you can take these 3 words, 3 WH words, and make notes what you want to say about each question. Oh, I forgot to mention that a pencil and a paper will be provided to you during your 1 minute preparation time. So make the perfect use of that. You can make notes like this: where, about 200 kilometers from home; who, my entire family; why, visit to my grandparents. It will actually help you to focus on the type of information you need to provide, and you can answer the questions in any order. Just keep the flow of talking, do not hesitate. So the whole thing stands like this. I recently took a trip to my father's hometown, Chittagong, which is the second largest city in the country. It is located on the banks of the Kornofuli River and between the Chittagong Hill Tracts and the Bay of Bengal. The city plays a vital role in our country's economy. It is about 200 kilometers from my home. I went there with my entire family to visit my grandparents. See, that's it. You can also add other information to describe the trip as well. For example, you may say like this: I recently took a trip to my father's hometown, Chittagong, which is the second largest city in the country. It is located on the banks of Kornofuli River and between Chittagong Hill Tracts and Bay of Bengal. The city plays a vital role in our country's economy. It's about 200 kilometers from my home. It takes 20 minutes to get there by flight. But we decided to have a bus journey so that we could enjoy the beautiful scenarios of our country. I went there with my entire family to visit my grandparents. However, we have also visited many sites and landmarks of Chittagong city like Nilachal, Chittagong Marine Drive, Shalbon Bihar, etc. Okay, so now strategy number 3. Think of 3 logical responses to the last question. Okay, so basically in this last part of the part 2 topic, we'll ask you something about your personal feelings or about your personal opinion on the topic. For example, here you can see the question asks, explain what you enjoyed most about this trip. It asks for your personal feelings or personal opinion. Here you can think of 3 logical responses to your answer and just a couple of sentences about each of the logical responses. Let me show you how you can use this strategy. Firstly, make notes during your 1 minute prep time. So if we look again at the same question, here you can make notes like this: what I enjoyed, grandparents, cousins, and places. Based on these 3 points, you can make a couple of sentences for each points. So all together it goes like, I enjoyed spending time with my grandparents. They always tell us funny stories and my grandmother is a great cook. I had a good time with my cousins too. We played many games together and talked about college, friends, and other things going on in our lives. Also, my father took all of us to the places we have visited. We really enjoyed the view of Chittagong Marine Road Drive. The river was so calm at that time, so we took a boat ride there. It's something I always look forward to when we go to Chittagong. It was really fun to together with the whole family and go for the boat ride with my cousins. So that's it, that's the whole answer. Now some tips for you on how to do well in your IELTS speaking test part 2. The first tip, talk a lot and talk spontaneously. As it is not a conversation, you will be the one who's talking or delivering a speech on a particular topic for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, remember, do not talk less than 1 minute. Okay, so now you can ask or say how to capture the timing or how to know what time I'm talking for. So the best and the perfect way is to know that is practice. Practice a lot. Practice in front of your mirror. There is no alternative of practicing. If you practice more and more, you will notice that you are mastering the IELTS speaking test part 2. You can sense the timing then. So talk a lot and talk spontaneously. Do not stop during your speech and try to think what you are going to say next. Do not do that. You just talk spontaneously for 1 to 2 minutes. Do not stop. Whatever happens in your IELTS test speaking room, do not stop. Just keep talking. This is the first step for you. Okay, now tip number 2. Talk naturally and don't be so nervous. Deliver your speech confidently. Do not hesitate if you make any grammatical mistakes or if you make any pronunciation mistakes. Just say simply sorry and just correct your mistake. Now tip number 3, use your 1 minute prep time accurately. Make small and simple notes on your prep time, but remember, do not try to memorize them. Do not try to memorize what you have written on the notes. Just write them for your brainstorming. Do not try to memorize it. Okay, so that's it for the IELTS speaking test part 2, and I have taken all the strategies and tips from the Barron's IELTS strategies and tips. This book is really helpful. You can purchase this book. So this book really helps me to get my desired band score. So I think this may also help you. So that's it. That's all. Last thing, let me remind you that there will be many videos on IELTS preparation on this channel. If you don't want to miss any videos, just make sure you subscribe to our channel Lekhapora Online and press the bell icon also so that you get the notification if we upload any exciting or interesting videos. So until the next time, take care. Goodbye.